Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Jaya Giri Vadadari. There, now you guys know when it starts. The music is amazing. Everyone just knows not to go if it doesn't work. Giri Vadadari Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Srimad Bhāgavatam, Shrimad. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Okay, this. Well, thank you. So today, reading from Śrimad Bhāgavatam, chapter 31 of Canto 3, Lord Kapila's instructions on the movements of the living entities. And we're on text 15, right?
Maybe.
Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat. Thank you. Astaprayasta Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Yan Mayayoru Gunakarma Nibandas. Okay, someone help me out here. Oh, like that? Brahma Samhita? Okay. Yan. Oh. I don't have my laptop right now. I just have my phone. Yan. Yeah. Whoa. Please. Yan Mayayoru Guna. No. Yan Mayayoru Gunakarma Nibandes. Yan Mayayoru Gunakarma Nibandanesmin. Yan Mayayoru Gunakarma Nibandanesmin. Yan Mayayoru Gunakarma Nibandanesmin. Samsarike paticharam stadabhishramena. Samsarike paticharam stadabhishramena. Samsarike paticharam stadabhishramena. Nashta smriti punarayam pravirnita lokam. Nashta smritir punarayam pravirnita lokam. Nashta smritir punarayam pravirnita lokam. Yuktya kaya mahadanugraham antarena. Yuktya kaya mahadurugam antarena. It's supposed to resolve. This is the resolving one, so it's a different tune. Yuktya kaya mahadanugram antarena. Okay, we'll do the whole thing once. Yan Mayayoru Gunakarma Nibandanesmin. Samsarike paticharam stadabhishramena. Nashta smritir punarayam pravarnita lokam. Yuktya kaya madanugraham anantarena. Yanmaya yoru guna karmani bandhanesmin. Samsarike paticharam stada vishramena. Nashta smriti punayam pravernita lokam. Yuktya kaya maharanugraham antarena. That was good. That was good. Sitaram. Naya yoru guna karma nibandhanesmin.
Samsarike paticharam stada vishramena.
Samsarike paticharam stada vishramena.
Nashtah smriti punarayam pravrinita lokam.
Nashta smriti punarayam pravernita lokam.
Tyakaya mahadanugraham antarena.
Yuktyakaya mahadanugrahamantarena. Yanmaya yoru guna karma nibandhanesmin. Samsarike paticharam stada vishramena. Nashta smriti punarayam pravernita lokam. Yuktya kaya mahadanugrahamantarena. Yanmaya yoru guna karma nibandhanesmin. Samsarike patitaram stada vishramena. Nashta smriti punarayam pravernita lokam. Yuktya kaya mahadanugrahamantarena. Yeah, the last part, like when they chant it, it sounds the best when it's like a little different from the other three. So it like symbolizes the end of the verse. You can hear any good recording of Brahma Samhita, it'll be like that. Like Brian was listening to it, I think yesterday. Okay, word by word. Yad of the Lord. Maya ya, by the Maya. Uruguna, arising from the great modes. Karma, activities. Nirbandhane, nibandhane, with bonds. Asmin, this. Samsarike, of repeated birth and death. Pati, on the path. Charan, wandering. Tat, of him. Abhishramena, with great pains. Nashta, lost. Smriti, memory. Punaha, again. Ayam, this living entity. Pravernita, may realize. Lokam, his true nature. Yuktya-kaya, by which means? Mahat anugraham, by what means? The mercy of the Lord. Antarena, without. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. The human soul further prays. The living entity is put under the influence of material nature and continues a hard struggle for existence on the path of repeated birth and death. This conditional life is due to his forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, without the Lord's mercy, how can he again engage in the transcendental, loving service of the Lord? Purport. The Mayavadi philosophers say that simply by cultivation of knowledge, by mental speculation, one can be liberated from the condition of material bondage. But here it is said one is liberated not by knowledge, but by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. I think I'm going to chant the Mangalacharan and we'll just do this purport sentence by sentence, because otherwise it's a lot to try to parse through. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupa Sagratatam Sagranatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Savadutam Savadvaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukum karoti vachalam bhangam mangaite girim ekripitamaham vande Shri Guru Dhyataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Yanmaya yoraguna karmani bandhanesmin samsari ke paticharam stada bishramena nashta shmiti punarayam pravernita lokam yuktya kaya maranurgrahamantarena. The human soul further prays. The living entity is put under the influence of material nature and continues a hard struggle for existence on the path of repeated birth and death. This conditional life is due to his forgetfulness of his relation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, without the Lord's mercy, how can he again engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord? And without the devotee's mercy, how can we engage in speaking about getting the Lord's mercy? So all the devotee, everyone here is a devotee. So please put your right hand out and say, may you be blessed, Natabara. I don't see you guys doing it, please. Even though you're maybe technically my juniors, Prabhupada asked all his disciples to pray for him. He says the prayers of the Vaishnavas are powerful. So there's some people that are my seniors, some people that are my juniors, but I'll accept the blessings from everyone, definitely. So this Kapila Dev is answering a question his mother asked in 1 or 2 chapters ago. She was asking, like, can you please describe basically how crappy it is to live in the material world? And so now this chapter 31, he's describing in full detail. I mean, we have birth, disease, old age, and death. So now birth is the first one, or I mean, depends on how you count it, but anyways, in this life, birth is the first one. And it's so terrible. And if my memory serves correctly, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, most souls don't really pray like this. It's like you have to be a muktan jiva, a very elevated soul to even be able to think like this. But it's giving us, Kapila Dev is giving us a clear picture of like how terrible it is when you're in the womb. And now this entity is trapped in the small area and praying, you know, I just want to do your service this lifetime. You know, I promise when I get out, I'll do it. You know, that's the only way we can actually get mercy. Otherwise, we're in the hard struggle for existence on the repeated path of birth and death. And so Prabhupada starts the purport by talking about how Mayavadis say that you can just cultivate your knowledge, and somehow by that will be able to liberate you. But then this elevated soul that's praying in the womb is saying, but without the Lord's mercy, how can he engage in the loving service of the Lord? How can he actually become liberated from the conditional life of repeated birth and death? And so here Prabhupada's making, but here it is said that one is liberated not by knowledge, but by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. The knowledge the conditioned soul gains by mental speculation, however powerful it may be, is always too imperfect to approach the absolute truth. So there's a difference here. There's knowledge that we gain by our own strength or natural intelligence. Like everyone here has a certain level of intelligence, and everyone you go outside in New York, they have a certain level of intelligence. And generally it's considered New Yorkers are pretty intelligent. I heard something that London is the most intelligent place, nowadays, I guess. And so everyone has a certain level of intelligence based on their past karma. They did something, and when you have good karma, you get some good things. You can get a beautiful body, you can get beautiful children, you can get a very nice intelligence, you can get very nice wealth and riches and house and eatables and palanquins and carriers and cars and all these things. Everything you get that's related to that, anything good, is coming from something that you did nice in the past, and it's just coming back to you. And so people have this kind of intelligence. But Prabhupada's saying here, however powerful it may be, you can be so intelligent that you can devise the atomic bomb, or you can figure out a way to organize all these people in New York City, 20 million people, or organize so many things. You can be incredibly intelligent, be some general in some war, organizing hundreds and thousands of battalions and warriors and tactics and trying to do all these different things. But however powerful it may be, it's just not enough. It can never actually be enough to approach the absolute truth. Because the absolute truth to be approached is not dependent on our intelligence. It's dependent on other things. It's dependent more on our attitude. Like Rupa Goswami says that the advancement of the follower, or Prabhupada says in the start of the Upadeshamrita, that advancement of the follower is due to the attitude of the follower. Or like Devamrita Swami says, real knowledge is state-dependent knowledge. Means whatever state our consciousness is in, that's what kind of knowledge we can be revealed. But if we're in the mode of ignorance, or the mode of passion, we can only get a certain kind of knowledge revealed to us. But if we're actually situated in the mode of goodness, in the transcendental mode, then we can actually get all knowledge revealed to us. So without the mercy of the Supreme Personality of God, one cannot understand Him or His actual form, quality, and name. Those who are not in devotional service go on speculating for many, many thousands of years, but they're still unable to understand the nature of the absolute truth. Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. So we have this natural intelligence that we get from our past karma. Then we have what's called empowered intelligence, which is what we need. We need to be empowered by something stronger than us. We need the empowerment coming directly from God. And Krishna is giving the secret how you get that intelligence. Tesham satatam yuktanam. So those who are dedicated, bhajatam priti purvakam, in yukta bhajatam priti purvakam, and trying to connect with the Lord in service and love, constantly. Always, if you're always trying to do that, then the Lord from within, buddhi yogam tam, he'll dadami buddhi yogam tam. He gives you buddhi, He gives you intelligence. He's giving you the intelligence. Then it's not coming from your own deeds, your own work. No matter how much you work, you can't get a certain amount of strength. Like Arjuna, he practiced so much archery, but actually he was being empowered by the Lord. And as soon as the Lord took that power away, he couldn't even draw back his bow. Or even in the battle, as soon as the Lord withdrew his power from the chariot that Arjuna was on, it shattered to pieces. Because the Lord was empowering that. So the Lord is empowering everything to do its specific duties. And if we actually want to get out of this material world, which we're not necessarily salvationists, we're not looking for liberation, but we need the Lord's mercy for that. And so we need to do satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam, because we need the Lord to give us buddhi yoga, to give us the actual intelligence that we can reach Him by, that we can actually approach Him. Otherwise, like in the Isa Upanishad, he's running faster than all others. Even the swift demigods, the Vayu is like the most powerful demigod, can't really catch him by their own speed, by their own strength. They need the Lord's strength. So, who who here knows the Brahma Samhita by heart? Who knows the Brahma Samhita in general? Okay, so name that Brahma Samhita verse, Pravishnu, you're not allowed to say it. Those who are not in devotional service go on speculating for many, many thousands of years, but are still unable to understand the nature of the absolute truth. Koti Sata Sambar Gamo Bungavanam, so Pyasti Sat Prapadachim Vintatve Govindam Adipurusham. Yeah, Pantas to Koti Shatavatsar Sambar Gamo. So those are on the path of Vayor Tapi Manaso Muni Pungavanam, of agitating their minds in mental speculation and doing so many breathing exercises to like stabilize mechanically their senses and their mind and their life airs. They can go for Koti Shata. Koti means 10 million and Shata means 100. So 100 times 10, a billion. So they can go on for billion Vatsaras. A Vatsara is one revolution of the sun. So billions of years they can go on, or so many lifetimes. And what will they approach? They're not actually going to approach the Lord. Eventually they're going to approach Brahman, which is Prapinya Simni of Vichinta Tatve. It's just the light coming from the toenail of the Lord, essentially. That's the poetry that that Lord Brahma uses in Brahma Samhita. And so they won't actually be able to understand the Lord, because the Lord, they didn't do the actual thing. And even the knowledge that anyone gets is actually dependent on the mercy of the Lord. That's why Mayavadis, they also do bhakti, but it's bhakti in the modes. It's not actual transcendental bhakti, but they need to do some bhakti to get whatever realization that they're getting. One can be liberated in the knowledge of the absolute truth simply by the mercy of the personality of Godhead. It is clearly said herein that our memory is lost because we are now covered by His material energy. Arguments may be put forward as to why we have been put under the influence of this material energy by the supreme will of the Lord. So, yeah, many people may say like, oh, well, why would the Lord, if He's controlling everything, why is He making us suffer here in this material world? And there's two kinds of people. There's Bahirmukh and Antarmukh. So Bahirmukh means outward facing. That like, if the Lord is there, they're like going like this. They're facing away from the Lord. They don't want to think about the Lord. They want themselves to be the Lord. That's why Rupa Goswami says we should always be facing the deity when they're in the temple room. And so the Bahirmukh jivas, the living entities, forgetful of the Lord, they're all in the material world. Why? This is explained in Bhagavad Gita where the Lord says, I am sitting in everyone's heart, and due to me, one is forgetful or one is alive in knowledge. It's nice when you read Prabhupada's purports, you can get these like secondary and third and fourth and fifth translations of verses that you might know really well. So what verse was that? I'm situated in everyone's heart, and due to me, one is forgetting or one is alive in knowledge. This is a partial quotation from, there's a few verses you could quote, but what does that ring a bell in anyone's mind of a verse? 15:15? Sarvasya chaham shridi sanivisto matasmritir gyanam apohanam cha vedaistai savarham eva vedyo vedanta krid veda vid eva chaham. No, I didn't say it right. That's why I was correcting myself. Because he's the Vedanta krid. He made the Vedas, or the Vedanta, and he's the knower of the Vedas. But, okay, so the point is the first, Sarvasya Chaham Shridi. He's situated in everyone's heart. Mata, from him comes Smritir, remembering. Mata, Smritir, Gyanam, knowledge, and Apohanacha, forgetfulness. So due to me, one is forgetful or one is alive in knowledge. I like that translation, alive in knowledge. Like when someone's really, like earlier in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives the analogy of sleeping. Those who are spiritual, the munis, when they're awake, whatever they're awake to is when everyone else is sleeping. And then when everyone else is sleeping, when everyone else is awake, they're asleep to that. Meaning that like the munis that are actually alive in knowledge, they're awakened to self-realization and they're asleep to sense gratification. And everyone else is awake to sense gratification and asleep to transcendental knowledge. Like I recently heard a really, really wonderful analogy. Like in the nighttime when you're the stars are compared to sense gratification. So it seems like, oh yeah, that's a nice like sparkling thing in the sky, and let's like do it. But what happens when the sun rises? You don't even remember the stars. You can't even tell that they're there. You can't even really, most of the time you can't even see the moon either. So when actual spiritual knowledge is coming from, is awakened, when we're actually alive in knowledge or alive in transcendental knowledge, then the idea of sense gratification is completely gone. But when we're dead in material knowledge, the forgetfulness of the conditioned soul is due to the direction of the Lord. Because a living entity misuses his little independence when he wants to lord it over material nature. So this is the reason why the Lord is making us forget. Because we want to forget. Essentially, that's what there's so many things. When you, in communication, you learn, like, actually, Krishna is the expert in all languages. And I've been realizing that everything has a certain language. Every animal, even, they have certain languages. Like there'll be like a dog. A dog may not like speak with like syllables and different things, and maybe his barks may mean something, but that's not how he communicates. Mostly dogs communicate by body language, and different things like that. They can sense your body language, and you have to sense theirs. And most time when people have quote unquote bad dogs, it's because they're actually just not able to communicate properly. So these like Caesar Milan and these like dog whisperers, they're actually, it's nothing special. They just understand what the dog is saying. Oh, okay, so the dog is nervous in this situation, and you're just making it more nervous. So there's a lot of things. My point is that there's a lot of things that are being said without saying them. So the living entity, when he wants to lord it over, is saying a lot to the Lord, and so the Lord is like, okay, my answer is you just forget everything and you try to go do that. And Maya, like we recently heard the example, Maya is like a nice mother that she lets us enjoy something for a little bit, and then we have to, eventually we have to realize that this is not the place we can actually enjoy. So then she gives us a lot of suffering. And we may think, gee whiz, this suffering is really bad. Like Prabhupada said in the paragraph about arguments made before, why are we put under the influence of material energy? Why are we here? Why are we suffering? Well, actually the suffering is to help us remember that this is not a good thing. We wanted to be here, we wanted to do this like an obstinate child. Mommy, I want to touch the fire. It looks so pretty. I want to touch it. I want to touch it. No, child, don't touch the fire. Don't touch the fire. It's hot. It'll burn you. It's so pretty. It looks pretty. It might feel pretty. I want to touch it. And like, okay. The mother grabs the hand. Okay, you want to touch the fire, you little brat? Okay, touch the fire. And then as soon as it happens, the child pulls his hand away and like cries and oh no. But what happens after that is the child understands, I'm never going to do that again. So similarly, we're just like, I want to enjoy material nature. I want to enjoy separate from Krishna. Somehow or other it happens like that. And so Maya's like, okay, try to enjoy, and then we get burned. And okay, try to enjoy, we get burned. Okay, try to enjoy, we get burned. Try to enjoy, we get burned. Eventually, our intelligence should awaken, and we realize every time I try to do this, it's happening the wrong way. I'm just getting burned. So then we start to actually make progress, so therefore that suffering, because it's the impetus of our progress. Sometimes people say the best place to be sometimes is rock bottom, because then there's nowhere else to go but up. So when the living entity is finally realized that its attempts for sense gratification are useless and fruitless, then that suffering actually turns into a source of joy, because it eventually leads them back to the lotus feet of the Lord, which is the ultimate shelter, the ultimate nectar. And so this misuse of independence is called Maya. It's always available, otherwise there's no such thing as independence. Independence implies that one can use it properly or improperly. It is not static, it is dynamic. Therefore, misuse of independence is the cause of being influenced by Maya. If we didn't have independence, it would be no fun for Krishna. If he just had a bunch of robots to kind of like do whatever he wants with. Maybe he would have fun for a little bit, but then it gets boring. So he wants to deal with individuals, with personalities, and he made unlimited personalities with all different unique qualities, and so he wants to deal with them in unlimited ways. And so we can't blame the Lord for that, because the Lord is unlimited, and we're actually part of that unlimitedness. And every soul, every person has some unique thing to offer to the Lord which no other soul has to offer. nor even the Nitya Parishads of the Lord. Every soul has something unique to offer that the Lord wants to enjoy, that we can actually expand the enjoyment of the Lord. Because that's the nature of Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam. It's the ever-increasing ocean of enjoyment in the spiritual world with the spiritual varieties. So we are a certain spiritual flavor that we should feel that we're not, because we're not able to fully offer that to Krishna, we should feel some struggle from that Krishna is missing out. You know, we can even pray like, oh Krishna, please help me to fully become that flavor that you're missing out on. Like, please taste my actual devotional service. Maya is so strong that the Lord says it's very difficult to surmount her influence. But if one can do so very easily, quote, if he surrenders unto me. Okay, what is that? Starting with Daivi. 714 is the right numbers. Are we Slokawal is here? Okay, Daiva Hiesha. Gunamai. Okay, no, everyone who said it's something, they have to be quiet. Other people. Daiva Esha hu Gunamai. Mama Maya. Duratya. Okay, wait. Okay, you said enough. Next line. 714. Look it up. You have your phone? This is like Prabhupada's most quoted verse, one of them. Actually, you can get a list of like all the most quoted verses of Prabhupada. And this is, I don't know if it's top 10, but this is definitely on there.
It's top 5.
This one's top 5. Yeah, Prabhupada quotes this a lot, and it's so important. So it's good. Actually, even just hearing the Sanskrit, it's purifying. Okay, you got it? 714? Spit it. Perfect. And read the translation.
This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it.
Okay, so that's what Prabhupada is also saying here. Anyone who surrenders unto him, Krishna, can overcome the influence of the stringent laws of material nature. It is clearly said here that a living entity is put under the influence of Maya by his will. And if anyone wants to get out of this entanglement, then it can be made possibly simply by his mercy. So that's another. So Krishna can give us intelligence to get out, and he can also break the chains that we can't bind. He can untie us from our binds that we can't untie. You know, Maya's putting us into illusion, keeping us down. He can give us the intelligence, and he can also help us. So he's helping us both ways. The activities of the conditioned souls under the influence of material nature are explained here. Every conditioned soul is working under different types of work under the influence of material nature. We can see in the material world that the conditioned soul acts so powerfully that he's playing wonderfully in creating so-called advancements of material civilization for sense gratification. Making cars and air conditioning and atomic bombs and parquet flooring and, you know, advanced industrial lighting and so many advancements for sense gratification society. When he is actually in perfect knowledge, he knows that the Lord is the supreme worshipful object and the living entity is an eternal servant. Without this knowledge, he engages in material activities. That is called ignorance. So there's so many people, like I was saying earlier, in New York that are so intelligent, at least seemingly intelligent. They're like bankers and I don't know what other different kind of people can afford to live on. They've called it Billionaires Row, which is like near Central Park. You'll see there's some like extremely tall buildings. Like it's almost like unfathomable how tall it is. You think it's going to fall over or like crush something underneath. It's like so much weight of building materials going up. Must be like 100, 200 stories, like ridiculously high. Even here in Brooklyn, you see that big black tower. Everyone like see that? If you look out the window, you can probably see it. That's only like 100-something stories, but the one in Billionaires Row is like super high. And so, you know, to be able to like, even just afford that means you have to like, so many millions of dollars and getting money means eventually you're just taking advantage of certain people and making certain things happen, and you have to be intelligent for that. To be a Vaishya, someone who's like controlling money, good at controlling money, they're a step of intelligence above the rest of the people. They're smarter than probably 90%, 95% of the people. And then what to speak of someone that knows how to control more people, like a kshatriya, or one who knows how to control everything, like a brahmana, or one who knows how to control the Supreme Lord, like a Vaishnava. That's the most intelligent. Like Shudra, everyone is just born a Shudra, kalo Shudra sambhavat, right? Something like that. So shloka is saying everyone is born just on the level of basic intelligence. They can survive, they can have a family, they can have children, and they can. It's considered you're very advanced in Kali Yuga if you can just have a few kids and maintain them properly, send them to college, or make sure that they don't go hungry. That's like you're considered like super advanced in Kali Yuga if you can actually do that. And I mean, we can see today with like today's prices. Now that like we had the different generations, there was a generation called the baby boomers, and that was basically they had the Vietnam War, and they had a bunch of people easily able to get jobs, and then when they got the jobs and they came back from the war, and from World War II, they just had tons and tons of kids. So that was the baby boomer generation, because it was like a super big increase in amount of people born. And then you kept going, and now we have, it's coming up as like Generation X, Generation Y, Generation Z. I don't know, maybe Generation Alpha or something. I don't know what the next one is. But with how the actual economy is, if they were to try to have another baby boomer generation, no one is actually making enough money to like buy a house, what to speak even rent a house, what to speak of like paying for like proper food. Everyone's basically had to just take shelter of eating like the cheapest food possible, which ends up being really unhealthy, and then everyone gets sick. And so in Kali Yuga, it's actually a great marvel just to be able to raise a family. But then above that intelligence is someone who's able to properly manage larger amounts of resources. Like if someone's able to actually be the banker, like there's many people in finance, and that's like takes like a certain level of intelligence to be able to even conceive of like the things that they're doing to make money. Like we saw in the 2008 financial crisis, how many ingenious but also like very stupid and evil things that they were doing with debt and debt swapping and it's like very complex like economic math that they were doing to try to get just more and more money. So that's kind of like a Vaishya's intelligence is good, or someone who has to maintain a farm, like a farmer. Vaishya is also like a farmer. If you're actually maintaining that, you have to be able to think about long-term production and be able to take your things to the market and sell them and make enough money that you can pay all your people and support yourself. But the farmers, they're the most, out of anyone that's working, because they're not getting paid a salary by someone else, they're way more free than your average person working, trying to support their family. So if the Vaishya's intelligence is a little bit more, then the Kshatriya, they know how to control a bunch of Vaishyas. They have the power, the organizational ability, the charisma, so many different things, and they can inspire people, they can protect people, and so if there's actual true Kshatriyas, most of the day, whatever varnas we get is like a facsimile of the actual varna. Like an actual Shudra is quite rare, an actual Vaishya is even more rare, an actual Kshatriya probably doesn't exist these days. Actual Kshatriya means that they could kill 10,000 people with a bow and arrow. They're the ones on the front lines, that they can do all the fighting. And nowadays fighting is done with bullets and bombs and all these modern technology. And it's done with like now they're saying in this fight in Gaza that, we only killed 10,000. What is it called? When you kill people that were civilians that weren't actually part of the war. Genocide is one word, but there's a specific word when you're the tactician in war and you're bombing someone, there's a number and you call it a specific thing, like collateral damage. Yeah, that's a good collateral damage number. Only 10,000, great. Whereas like in Vedic times, like even one person like getting scratched or harmed or disturbed by the war is like too much. Like only the soldiers on the battlefield, that they were the ones that were going to actually settle the matter, and everyone else was just going to, whoever was going to be the king, they were going to do whatever service they had to do faithfully. So then you have the Kshatriya, that they have to come up with all these tactics and politics and diplomacy And yesterday I gave a class on Prahlad Maharaj where his teachers were trying to teach him diplomacy and becoming a politician. And basically, Chanakya Pandit says, never trust a politician or a woman. And because a politician is always going to lie. He just wants to push his own thing, so you can never really trust what he's saying. Like all these treaties that they're making between the different countries, it's like the treaties are always going to be made if the country thinks it benefits from it. If it doesn't think it's going to benefit from it and it can get away from it, then it's not going to follow the treaty. Why would it? But then above all of these intelligence is the intelligence of the Brahman. The real Brahman, very rare, maybe some exist. And of course, in ISKCON, we're supposed to be generating Brahminical-like people. We're supposed to be generating Brahminical qualities. Although a fully fledged Vedic Brahmin, like we hear in the Bhagavatam, I don't think, maybe there's some hidden gems within ISKCON or within the world. But they can grab their Brahman thread, they can snap it, and whatever they want will happen. They have such power over, they understand how the material world works. Like when King Venu was blaspheming the Lord, was blaspheming the devotees, was blaspheming the Brahmanas. They said, okay, what should we do? Oh, let's try to convince him. Okay, they tried. Okay, he's not listening, and he's still being blasphemous. Okay, let's just finish him off. Om, and that was it. Just by utterance of Om, they knew how to manipulate reality in such a way that, King Venu just died right then and there. And then they also were able to basically engineer the whole perfect new society, getting a new Kshatriya involved, getting everything situated from that. So that's Brahminical intelligence. It's very, very wonderful. But a Brahmin becomes perfect even if someone has fully all the 12 Brahminical qualities, but they don't have devotional service, they don't have devotion to the Lord, they don't actually love the Lord, then it's useless. They can't even deliver their own family. But even a so-called Shudra who is actually in devotional service, he raises above the modes. Krishna says, Savgunam samatit yaitan, Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. So if you're, what is the start of that verse? Mam vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate. Mamcha vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate. So if someone is actually engaged in devotional service, then they can deliver what to speak of their family, they can deliver the whole world. And Lord Chaitanya, he doesn't send all his associates to be specifically born as like perfect, powerful Brahmins. I mean, many devotees he does send as perfect, powerful Brahmins, as we can see in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya or in the Śrimad Bhāgavatam or even today. But he sends them in all different kinds of families. Shudra families, Muslim families. Prabhupada said that his guru sent all of these young boys and women to be born in these different families just to be like paratroopers coming down and helping him set up his movement. And with many of the devotees that you see that helped Prabhupada, you can see that their situation in life was like not normal. They were not, like my Guru Maharaj, he was, even at the very, very young age, says just by using the name of Jesus, he helped cure one of his sick family members. And he was really, really devoted. And then when he met Prabhupada, it just easily able to drop everything and fully dedicate everything. So from that, in the past life, if someone just picking something up like that without getting explained much, becoming super enthusiastic and super expert. Like sometimes you see someone coming and they're like, I just heard about this 3-year-old boy. He's like super expert at playing mridanga, singing bhajans, knowing shlokas, and he's only 3 years old. So in 3 years, how many bhajans and shlokas can you learn now? Or let's say you're 12 years old and from 12 to 15, you just focus on learning bhajans and singing shlokas. How many can you learn? But at 3 years old, from 0 to 3, it's like, that's that's coming from the past life. It's not coming from this life. So the Shudra has a certain intelligence, the Vaishya, the Kshatriya, the Brahmin, but then the Vaishnava has the highest intelligence. Like I said, like the Brahmin can control material reality. Like you can get mystic cities where you can do things that no one can even imagine. Like there's one level of mystic city that you can do anything you can imagine, and there's the next level of mystic city where you can do anything that even if you can't imagine it, you can still do it. Which, go figure that. But that's what it says in like if we read Nectar of Devotion, or I think Bhagavad Gita talks about the Asta cities, the mystic cities. So that's what a Brahmin can get that. But a Vaishnava is higher than that. A Vaishnava actually, a pure Vaishnava, a pure devotee, they have all mystic siddhis, they have all Brahminical intelligence, they have all the Brahminical qualities. But they have something better than that. The real value, the empowered intelligence that the Lord gives them. They have the unlimited power of the Lord, like not Daksha. There was an example of Ambarish versus, not Daksha, what is it? Durvasa, yeah, okay, D, that's what I was thinking, D. Durvasa was, he's actually a devotee, he's an Amsa of Shiva, and Shiva is the best devotee, but he plays his part in many different pastimes. So in this pastime, they're showcasing the difference between a Brahmin and a Vaishnav. So Ambarish, although playing the role of a Kshatriya, was a Vaishnav. And Durvasa Muni was playing the role of a powerful Brahmin who can control the material universe. So being so-called offended by Ambarish Maharaj drinking water to break his fast before he served the Muni and his disciples, he took out a hair and made a big demon. Or no, that was some other time. Maybe that time. That's one thing yogis can do, especially Durvasa does that a lot. Just takes out one hair. Shiva also did this. Took out one hair and chucked it on the ground, and somehow with their mystic tantric knowledge can conjure up a gigantic demon. But the demon wasn't able to do anything against Ambarish, and not because Ambarish necessarily had power. Perhaps he did have power, but when you're a devotee, it's like if you see a little kid and he's like trying to lift a big weight and he can't do it, but then the father comes behind and lifts it up, and then they're doing it together. Then it's like the kid is doing it. And he's like, wow, look at how strong I am. Look at how strong I am. And it's very cute. So it's the same way a Vaishnava, a devotee, may have lots of his own power, but ultimately, like Prahlad Maharaj is telling Hiranyakashipu, the source of my power that's protecting me from everything that you're trying to kill me with is the same as the source of your power. We all have the same source of power. Ultimately, aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate. Everything is coming from the Lord. All power is coming from the Lord. And so when the devotee is actually connected with the Lord, then the Lord, by his own sweet will decide, okay, I'll give him protection. I'll give him my energy. Rather than just his own feeble energy, like I was saying in the beginning, our own natural intelligence, he gets buddhi yoga, empowered intelligence. Or in this case of Ambarish, he gets empowered protection. The Sudarshan chakra, the personal weapon of the Lord, comes and enlightens Ambarish Maharaj. Sudarshan means proper vision. Su means it's like a prefix meaning it's like making it better. So Sudarshan, darshan means vision. So Durvasa Muni had the wrong darshan of the Vaishnava. He thought it was some upstart kshatriya, but actually it was an exalted Vaishnava. And Sudarshan chakra helped change his mind. And then he tried to beg forgiveness from Narayan. He could actually go to Vaikuntha, but because Durvasa Muni is actually a devotee, so he's not, he's an Amsa of Lord Shiva. But in this episode, he's playing the part. So in this episode, he's going to Narayan. He's, Narayan, please, call back your chakra. And he's like, well, I'm sorry. It's not even really my choice. The devotees are my heart, and I've fully given myself to them. So Sudarshan chakra is really upset at you, and no matter what I say, it's not going to change that. You have to actually get forgiveness from my devotee. You offended my devotee, and you have to get forgiveness from him. So it's showing also the danger of the hati mata aparad, the mad elephant offense. If we're tending our garden of bhakti and we eventually want the fruit of love of Godhead, it would be really bad if something came in and just knocked everything over. So that's what the Vaishnava aparad is like. And so Durvasa Muni taught us all by humbly going and paying obeisance at Ambarish's feet, who was waiting there for a whole year, still didn't really break his fast. And then he served he served Durvasa Muni, and then he broke his fast after that. So it was really amazing. But without the knowledge of the living entity being the eternal servant of the Lord, then they'll just engage in material activities, the lower intelligence, the ignorance, actually. If we're not, any of these actually castes or varnas, if it's engaged in yoga, then it's actually Vaishnav. It's actually the highest intelligence. And just depending on what level, where we are in the path, we may have specific things that we have to deal with. So we'll be grihe take vane tako, sadahari boli dako. So whether we're in the griha as a grihasta, as a shudra or a vaishya or a kshatriya or a brahmin, or maybe we're a sannyasi or a brahmachari in what they call vane in the forest, whatever we are, we should actually worship the Lord, which starts Atashi Krishna Namadi Nabaved Graham Indrai Sevan Muke Hi Jivado Swayam Eva Spuratyada. That the service to the Lord starts with Hi Jivado, with the tongue. And what is that service? One is honoring prasadam to help control our tongue. Oh Lord, this world is a path leading to death. And of all those paths, the tongue is the most difficult to control, but you're so kind, you've come in the form of prasad just to help us control our tongue. And the other way, that when our tongue is controlled by prasad, that we're peaceful, that we got our belly filled, then we can chant the Lord's holy name. And if we try to do that constantly and constantly remember the Lord, then He'll bestow upon us empowered intelligence, which really just means how we can do that more and better and get more nectar out of our chanting, more bliss out of it, and keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's an anandam buddhi vardhanam. What's the cheto darpanam marjanam, bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam, shreya karva chandrika vitaranam, vidyavadu jivanam, anandam buddhi vardhanam, pratipadam pranam aswadanam, sarvatma snapanam. So it completely will cleanse us, sarvatma snapanam. It'll increase the ocean of it'll increase the ocean of spiritual bliss, of which, like I was mentioning, we are a drop of that ocean of bliss to make that ocean expand. So we want to become that pure blissful drop for Krishna. And it starts, and the means is the ends. The sadhana is the sadhya, is just chanting and dancing. And chanting and dancing leads in feasting. Feasting is to energize our chanting and dancing, and chanting and dancing leads to chanting and dancing with enthusiasm, and chanting and dancing with enthusiasm leads to chanting and dancing with taste, and with taste, who remembers how it goes? Ayana Prabhu's, wish Ramroy is here, he could Shrutidhar memory, just verbatim quote it. But chanting and dancing eventually leads to chanting and dancing with Lord Chaitanya, chanting and dancing with Radha and Krishna. So that's how it starts, and that's how it goes on eternally. And it just gets better. Even when we go into the spiritual world, it'll just keep getting better. It'll be the best day of our entire life, and the next moment will be the best moment of our entire life. And it'll just keep having more and more like that, because Krishna is expert of how to eternally attract people. Whereas anywhere else in this material world, even if you're like, I fully surrender to you, Ryan, or I fully surrender to you, like whatever person on the street, like I will do anything for you. Even if they're like Bill Gates or some rich person, how much can they really do for you? They can't. They can only do so much. And anyone that's ever surrendered to anyone in the material world eventually loses taste, and it becomes hackneyed. And there's no more time for questions, because we've gone over the time. So Hari Om Tat Sat. Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki jai.